So The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is finally here, and with that of course comes the brand new roguelike mode in No Return. I've spent pretty much the entire day playing it as much as I can to try and learn some new tips and tricks for you guys, and hell, there is some rookie mistakes I was making earlier on. So today we're going over 10 things I wish I knew earlier in No Return. Now the first one is probably super obvious if you guys have played even, 2 to 3 runs of the new mode, but this one is to essentially just save your ammo and items for the later encounters if you possibly can. Now obviously if it's life or death and you're in your second encounter, for example, you obviously want to use your ammo. You don't want to be dying because this mode obviously has permadeath, and therefore you obviously want to do what you can to keep your character alive. With that being said, it is a lot easier in those earlier rounds to pretty much just stay stealthy and even just winning your melee combat, even if it's not stealth combat, compared to those later rounds. Generally speaking, there are a lot more enemies in those later encounters, and you're definitely going to need more ammo in, for example, your 4th, 5th, or even the boss encounter compared to the 1st or 2nd, for example. So save your ammo as much as you possibly can. Save even stuff like your trip mines and all those sorts of things, because trust me, if you do make it to the final boss encounter, you are definitely going to need every single item you can possibly get your hands on. Now, next up is to do with mostly Abby, but this does actually come in the form of a mod as well. This is the health on melee mod, or like I said, in Abby's case, this is actually just part of her character, where killing enemies with a melee kill will give you health back. Now, something that I found that makes this a hell of a lot easier is still just using your weapons, even though I just said, obviously, in the earlier rounds, you want to try and save ammo if you can. But later on, obviously, if you're having to shoot enemies and stuff like that, you can still just shoot them in the legs or even in the torso. They're not going to die straight away like they do with a headshot. And generally speaking too, if you shoot a character, they actually become staggered, at which point you can easily move in for a melee kill, and you can shoot an enemy once or twice and then actually just hit them for the last hit, and that will still give you the health on the melee because technically you killed them with melee still. So when playing as Abby, or like I said, there are certain mods that will do this as well. That is a really effective way to do that, because obviously if you're just going hand to hand with like 3 enemies at once, that can be very, very difficult. Using your weapons can make it a lot easier, and you can still get that bonus from the melee kills. Now, another very, very important tip, especially early on in the game, is to make sure that you are playing as each new character in order to unlock everyone as soon as possible. I'm sure pretty much everyone who plays this game absolutely loves Ellie. For me, she is one of my favorite characters in gaming in general, but if I just played as Ellie over and over again, then I would never be unlocking any of the later characters, because for those who don't know, you unlock each character by playing a certain amount of runs with each character. So for example, you have to finish 2 encounters with Ellie to then unlock Dina. You then have to finish 3 encounters with Dina to unlock Jesse, 3 with Jesse to unlock Tommy, and then 3 with Tommy to unlock Joel. And the same sort of thing goes with all of Abby's characters. And obviously, like I said, if I just played as Ellie over and over again, I would never unlock any of those later characters. So early on, you definitely want to be playing as each new character that you unlock. Even if it's a character you don't really like, it is definitely worth it in the long run, because eventually, once everyone's unlocked, you can obviously just play whoever you want at that point. Now, the next one is going to be very, very helpful to you guys, and I found this out the hard way, unfortunately. You want to save your trading post money or currency for after the 2nd encounter if you can. Once you finish the first 2 encounters, once you go back to your hideout, the 3rd encounter, or I guess the prep time for that 3rd encounter, will actually give you a gold weapon when you go to the trading post. Now, I don't know if this is every single time, but at least to me, it seems as though this is every single time when you finish your 2nd encounter, it will give you that gold weapon, and that will almost be a necessity if you guys want to have a successful run and beat the boss at the end. So don't just go in there and spend all of your currency in the 1st and 2nd encounters. Generally speaking, you can make it through those encounters without buying new weapons. Save that currency and wait for that 3rd encounter, at which point, like I said, there will be a gold weapon, which is fully maxed out and generally one of the better weapons in the game. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are enjoying the video so far and it is helping you guys out, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty more content coming on the new No Return mode. Plenty of tips and tricks. I'm going to be doing guides for every single character in the game, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, the next tip actually goes in tandem with the last one, and that is that if there is something good in the trading post, be sure to buy it, because they re-roll after every single encounter. So for example, if there is a gold weapon, you don't want to save your money and think, oh, what if there's a better one next time? You want to get that straight away, because once you finish the next encounter, that will not be there anymore. anymore. So like I said, in the first 2 encounters or so, you can kind of just leave those and try not to spend your currency. If there's something really good in there, then obviously get it, but don't spend big, don't buy any weapons or anything like that. However, like I said, after that second encounter, there generally will be something good. And at that point, it isn't worth saving your money anymore. You want to buy the good stuff that's in there because like I said, once you start that next encounter, that weapon is gone forever. And there is unfortunately no way to get them once they have been re-rolled. Now, the next tip is also, I guess, kind of in the same vein, but this is to do with your parts rather than the currency. You want to save some of these parts and kind of save up a big bulk amount of parts rather than just spending them quickly, because generally speaking, the bigger upgrades and the better upgrades for each weapon actually cost more. And I've found myself a lot of times pretty much spending my parts almost immediately, and then it gets to those later rounds. And unfortunately, I'm like 10 or so parts away from getting the really, really good upgrades that would definitely be more useful than the ones I've already bought. So kind of like I mentioned with the currency early on, just don't upgrade any of your weapons. Save those parts for once you do get some good weapons, and you can always upgrade stuff later on. Whereas if you spend it all early, you are probably going to regret that later on in your run. Now, the next tip is very, very useful when it comes to, I guess, making the most of all of your resources. And this is to do with the assault mode. When you get to the final enemy in each wave of the assault mode, there will actually be an arrow that pops up above their head permanently. And this means that you can very easily track them, and they will essentially never be able to get close to you because you always know where they are. This gives you guys a lot of time to go around making sure to collect every single item on the map without any risk of the final enemy sort of jumping out of nowhere, because like I said, you always know where they are, and therefore you can run around, collect every single item in terms of all the crafting parts and stuff that you need. Then you know where they are, go up, get the kill, and move on to the next encounter. Now, the next tip is to do with, I guess, planning out your run. You want to get an idea of what run you want to do in terms of the path that you want to take, so that you can then plan what you'll need to look for to use in those later encounters. For example, if there is an encounter that is maybe hunted and it is the infected, for example, in that situation, you maybe want to have a bunch of trip mines, because the only way they can kill you is getting close to you. And in that situation, you can kind of find a really nice little hiding area and arm that place full of trip mines. Now, if you don't plan out your run, you're not going to know that that's the path you're going to take, and so you're going to get there and kind of not have the resources that you need. Whereas if you know that early, you'll know to save all of the parts you need to make those trip mines, and then once you get there, that is going to make it a hell of a lot easier for you. So never just blindly go into a run. You always kind of want to take a quick glance at what each encounter is going to be and figure out the path that is, I guess, the easiest for you, or if you want to challenge, the one that is the most exciting for you. Now, the next one is also to do with the assault mode that I just mentioned earlier. And this is that you essentially want to move spots as soon as the round starts in assault. When you begin a wave of assault mode, the enemies are going to know exactly where you are, but they only know that at the beginning of the round. It's not like throughout the entire round, they know exactly where you are. And because of that, as soon as that round starts, you want to just pretty much get away from where you were when that round started. They're going to go to that area, yet because you're not there anymore, they're pretty much hunting in the wrong direction. That gives you a very easy flank to actually get behind them and kind of flank them from the direction that they came in. They're going to be all looking in the wrong direction. You can easily take out the enemies, and this is by far the easiest way to do the assault mode. Now, last but definitely not least, we have a tip to do with the gambits, which are essentially challenges that are given at random. And this is that you definitely want to pay attention to those gambits, and whenever possible, try and finish them, because they give you a lot of extra rewards. These gambits will happen once per encounter. So like I said, it will pretty much just give you a challenge each time you load into an encounter. Some of them are a little bit hard, and so obviously it's not worth dying over. You want to try and survive and make it to the end, obviously. But if it is easy enough, you definitely want to try and do those gambits or the challenges, because like I said, they will reward you with extra currency, ammo, and health, and that can be a massive help later on in your run. But anyway, guys, that is it for 10 things that I wish I knew earlier when it comes to the Last of Us Part 2 Remastered's No Return mode. Hopefully these tips help you guys out. If you guys have any tips of your own, be sure to leave them down below as well. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.